Hello folks, Neil here from IWALVG Video Games. I'm a little late with this, and Mundane Matt and Alpha Omega Sin already made really good videos about this topic. Recently, a cover by Raphael Albuquerque got removed from a issue of Batgirl. This was a variant cover. Keep this in mind before I even start. Variant cover, which means not the primary cover, and if you don't want this particular cover, you don't have to buy it. The cover got removed thanks to a hacktivist, #activist attack on the cover called Change the Cover. Raphael made a statement saying that he decided to remove the cover after pressure from people complaining. I don't believe that for 1 second. I believe he was strong-armed by DC, because if he ever had an inkling that the cover would be controversial, he wouldn't have drawn it. If DC had any inkling that it would have been controversial, they wouldn't have approved it. So this is just him throwing himself on the sword to save face for himself and the company. So with that out of the way, let me get to my opinions on the removal of this cover. Beating Jason Todd to death, perfectly cool. Jim Gordon being stripped naked and being forced to look at images of his nude, bleeding daughter. One of the greatest Batman stories of all time. Ozymandias slaughtering millions of people with a manufactured attack in order to create world peace. Part of Time's 100 greatest novels list. The Flash being reduced to a skeleton and then ash in his suit in front of everyone that knows him in order to save the universe. One of the greatest crossover stories of all time. Future Batman snapping the neck of the Joker, killing because there was no other option. A classic Batman tale. Superman being beaten to death in the middle of a public square, smack dab in the middle of Metropolis. One of the best-selling stories of the 90s. Batgirl has a tear in her eye. Oh my god, it's sexist. Oh my god, it perpetuates rape culture. It's triggering. Get rid of it. It's terrible. This is awful. We're gonna get rid of this cover. This is what's happening now, folks. Video games aren't enough. Now we're moving on to comic books. It started with the Spider-Woman cover because her ass is showing. Forget the fact that superhero costumes are tight on everybody, and thanks to art like we've seen in the past, we've seen covers by J. Scott Campbell where the Spider-Man's outfit, the costume is perfectly curved to his ass. It's skin tight. But oh no, this is a woman. So it's sexist. It's evil. Get rid of it. This kind of crap is happening not because of feminists, because of feminazis. There's a difference. A feminist is someone who truly wants equality for women and men. A feminazi is someone who says they want equality for both genders, but they have very special rules when it comes to the women, which is the most hypocritical thing you can possibly say. I want gender equality, except for specific things with women. Everything is okay for both genders. You can show violence with men and women. Oh wait, no, I don't like this particular type of violence with the woman. It's okay with the man, but not with the woman. But I'm all for equality. Absolutely ridiculous. And I am pissed that Raphael and DC caved and got rid of this cover. And do you want to know why they got rid of this cover? Because this isn't the DC that we had 25 years ago. This isn't the DC that pushed boundaries and told great stories. This is the DC and the Marvel. These are the companies that are more interested in making sure they get your ass in the seat of their next summer blockbuster. This is the type of business now where all they care about is you need to run out and buy that Rocket Raccoon action figure. You have to go buy the next Arkham game. It's all about the brand. It's not about telling a story. It's not about following characters. It's not about character development. It's not about artistic integrity or creative freedom. It's about making sure you buy that thing that has the Joker's face on it. As for the image itself, there is nothing sexual in that image. That's the argument that kept being made. It looks like the Joker's about to rape Barbara. Where? I didn't see it. Did you see it? I would have seen it if the cover consisted of the Joker licking Barbara's face and taking his hand and cupping her breast. Okay, if it was that, I'm with you. That's messed up. Okay, I'm with you on there. But he's standing there, smiling at the camera, not looking at her at all, with his arm around her, holding a gun. That's it. An homage to The Killing Joke, which any Batman fan worth their salt has either read or at least knows what it is. But, you know, it perpetuates rape. I'd like to see... I don't see it. I don't see it. And if you actually look at that image and you see it as perpetuating rape culture, there's nothing wrong with the image. There's something wrong with you. The cover makes Batgirl look vulnerable and weak. Again, anyone worth their salt as a Batman fan or Batgirl fan or Joker fan knows that there is a deep, traumatic history between the Joker and Batgirl because of The Killing Joke. You would know that. We've seen her scared before of the Joker. The front cover of DC First from 2002 shows Babs hiding behind a chimney on a rooftop, looking around, looking really nervous, and the Joker's on the other side with a mallet ready to smash her. She looks pretty scared in that picture too. That was over 10 years ago. Nobody complained. Batgirl number 14, a recent issue, shows Batgirl laying on the ground. This is on the cover. Laying on the ground with her chest heaving and her arm over it with little chattering teeth coming at her as if they were going to bite and rip off her outfit. And the Joker is above her, looking down at her with a grin, with a knife in his hand and a box of chocolates that says, "For you, my darling." That image is a little more rapey. That seems a little more creepy, doesn't it? That was 2 years ago. Who complained? That's right. Nobody. Because the whole, we have to protect women in different art forms movement, this fake feminist movement, didn't exist yet. Or at least it wasn't popular yet. That's why nobody said anything. Go look up the cover of Batgirl number 14. That one I could possibly see as perpetuating rape culture. But this new one, this variant cover, no. Batgirl looks vulnerable and weak and she's crying. How come we don't see men? We never see men on the cover crying. Two of the most iconic DC covers of all time show two of the biggest male heroes that they have at their most vulnerable, weeping. A Death in the Family, with Batman holding Jason Todd's dead body. And Crisis on Infinite Earths with Superman. This is an iconic image. It's been replicated. Superman crying, screaming, holding Supergirl's body. Oh, you want to see heroes at their most vulnerable? Okay. What about the classic issue of Green Lantern and Green Arrow that shows Speedy as a junkie? Why not that? We've seen countless covers over the years of the hero, male hero, doesn't matter what book, doesn't matter if it's Marvel or DC, being tied up or held captive as the villain is like, "I finally have you now," insert hero here, and they've got them tied up and they're ready to do something and, oh no, what's going to happen to the hero? I have to pick up the book. That's why the covers look like that. That's why this Batgirl cover looked like that. It's not to perpetuate rape culture. It's so you look at it and go, crap, how's Barbara gonna get out of this? And you grab it because you want to read it. You want to see how she gets out of it because she's the hero. You know she's going to get out of it. The cover is just there to draw you in. We have tons of covers like that. Captain America tied to a bomb, or Batman tied to the front of a train or something. We've seen it countless times, and nobody complained. People are complaining now, but only with the women because, you know, equality, right? No. These activists decided to say that, well, in The Killing Joke, the Joker raped Barbara Gordon, and that's still prevalent here, and because it's still canon, you know, they're showing that she's defined by her trauma. Let's take this a step at a time. Alan Moore himself, the writer of The Killing Joke, outright stated, no. The Joker, his henchmen, nobody sexually raped. There was no sex involved in The Killing Joke. The writer himself stated this. So you're using it as your platform, your argument to get rid of this current cover? No, you can't do that. You can't do it because the author already stated that your argument doesn't exist. As for the whole, she's defined by this trauma, and that's wrong. Batman, besides being a billionaire, and having all these cool gadgets, his core character, 75 years later, is determined solely by the fact that his parents were killed. His entire persona revolves around trauma. Everything about him revolves around trauma. His entire character is born out of the death of his parents, and then the death of Jason Todd, and oh my God! But because it's a guy, you don't care. Quit picking and searching for arguments. Really. And you know, yes, the entire thing with The Killing Joke is true. It was very traumatic for Barbara, and it stuck with her all these years. It's still canon. It doesn't define her, but it is a part of her history. And to show her with the Joker and have her any emotion, at least not slightly scared, is taking a huge shit on their shared history. G. Willow Wilson, The Killing Joke came out at a time when we were failing to grapple with some of the very dark psychological implications of the superhero genre. So what? That was wrong? We shouldn't have delved into the dark side of superhero books? We shouldn't have been a little more introspective? We shouldn't have examined these characters deeper? That's what you're trying to say? We should have never tried to progress? We should have never tried to grow? It should have just been, the Joker's gonna rob a bank, and he's doing it with exploding pancakes. We should never be provocative? We should never revisit that kind of stuff? That's what you're trying to tell me? The entire reason that the late 80s DC era is regarded as one of the best in the medium is because they were taking risks. While Marvel was doing more serious stuff too. Tony Stark with his alcoholism. Okay, we had stuff like that too, but it still had a quote-unquote, for lack of a better term, comic bookish feel. DC in the 80s decided to take these stories with writers like Moore and Miller, and with stories like The Dark Knight Returns, Batman Year One, The Killing Joke, Watchmen. They decided to take the medium, the entire medium, and bring it down to street level. There were still fantastic things happening in there. I mean, there were still people with superpowers. It was still a fantasy. It was still a superhero universe. But there were moments, and more of those moments, that when you read them, you sat in your seat and you squirmed a little bit, and you went, oh man, what if something like that happened? Or, oh man, there are people that would do something like this. It was an important time. for the history of comic books. The medium was growing because the audience was growing and growing up. Having some plot foiled by the hero wasn't enough anymore. We needed social commentary. We needed deep character development and growth. And DC, in the late 80s, in the early 90s, they were doing it. It was a renaissance of the medium. But we don't have that anymore. Now DC will cave because people complain that Batgirl has a tear in her eye. Now it's all about the Hollywood blockbusters, the multi-million-dollar video games, the action figures, and the merchandise. That's all these companies care about now. They don't give a crap about the Joker as a character. They care about him as a brand. They want to make sure that the books are just edgy enough to keep the old comic fans happy, but still casual and safe enough to make sure that you run out and you buy a t-shirt with the Joker on it. Speaking of these Hollywood blockbusters, let's take a look at one of DC's blockbusters. The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger's Joker. This Joker can bomb hospitals, slice people's faces, put an explosive inside of a guy's stomach and detonate it. Nobody complained. When Ledger's Joker meets Rachel, he comments, "You are beautiful," and he licks his lips. He runs his finger through his hair and straightens out his jacket. He circles around her and puts his face up next to hers and kind of sniffs her. And he grabs her. "Come here, get over here." And puts a knife up to her face. She's scared. She's crying. Did people complain about sexual implications, which are clearly there? No. Instead, it was universal praise. He got the character. He truly captured the spirit of the character. Give him an Oscar. One of the greatest villains ever put to film. But people are going to get up in arms because he's going to stare straight ahead and put his arm around Batgirl. You know what's funny? Harley Quinn is a fan favorite. She's a fun character. People love her. She's also the poster child for abuse in the DC universe. Here's someone who actually does get raped and beaten and abused by the Joker on a regular basis. Part of her core character is the fact that she doesn't escape. She keeps coming back for more. She is a victim. But she's a fan favorite. Nobody says a word about it. I find it really odd that nobody mentions that. All these years of Harley Quinn books, she's been around for 20 years. Her core character trait is that she's crazy enough to stay with the Joker even though she gets abused. She has no superpowers. She's not really all that bright. She's funny, but she's not all that bright. She sticks with the Joker and gets beat to shit by him on a regular basis. And that is her core character. Nobody complains. This whole thing just irritates the hell out of me. And for people who say it's just a comic book cover, it's not a big deal, the artist and the company caving is a big deal. It is a big deal. Marvel caving with the Spider-Woman cover is a big deal because all these little things that you think don't matter end up mattering in the long run because it shows that these people who don't give a crap about comics, who don't give a crap about video games, who don't give a crap about what kind of entertainment you enjoy, they're just there to try to make sure that things are safe. These people are going to keep poking and keep prodding and keep bitching and keep hashtag Twitter activists. They're going to keep doing this shit until they sanitize everything. Until they make sure everything is bland. Until they make sure that they dictate what kind of entertainment you get to enjoy. Someone else who has nothing to do with these mediums is dictating what you can and cannot buy. It's censorship. It's a new breed of terrorism. Every day, this country is creating more terrorists. And I'm not talking about some guy overseas with a missile. I'm talking about the person who sees a piece of art that's been around for centuries in a museum and then complains because someone's naked on it. And because of that, it promotes sexism or rape and has it removed. These people are your worst enemy. The people who are trying their hardest to stop you from enjoying the things you enjoy simply because they don't like it. Instead of ignoring it, or moving on to something else, or simply speaking with their wallets and saying, ugh, this cover, I don't like this cover, I'm not buying it. Instead, because they personally get offended, they feel that you shouldn't be allowed to enjoy it. It's a new breed of terrorism, folks. And it's here, and it's getting stronger every day, and something needs to be done. Raphael, DC, I'm very, very disappointed in you, all of you. And you know what? I find it very interesting that DC is celebrating the 75th anniversary of the world's most iconic and recognizable comic book villain by censoring an image that depicts the very nature of his character.